Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of Firm Flex, your social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm here in Connecticut. I'm joined today on this eve of a wonderful holiday where we're going to talk about holiday things with my man Seth Price down there in the little bit warmer, probably it was 21 degrees here, a little bit warmer
Yeah,
down
it
there in
was
DC.
cold. It was cold yesterday. My parents were like, it's colder here than New York.
Yeah. So Seth is the major domo of Price Benowitz, your D.C., Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina law firm. Maybe soon to be in Connecticut. Maybe I'll just give him the keys and let him take this firm for a spin and add us under the PB umbrella, as well as the founder of Blue Shark Digital, a SEO for law firms with hundreds of clients across the country. As we go every week, this short week, I'm going to say to you, Seth, how's it going this week?
It's going pretty well. It's this time of year is always one of those. What are we doing? Is today a work day? Is it a half day? We've always done since I started the business, even before I had a law firm. Friday was always a sacred holiday. Give people a solid 4-day weekend. That 4-day weekend seems to be becoming a 5-day weekend, which is ironic given the virtual work concept. You would think that it would shrink back, but not to be. So going well, trying to just wade our way through this holiday season.
Yeah, it's interesting because, my bones were made, yours in criminal generally, but mine really were made in DUI. And tonight is our big night. Everyone thinks it would be New Year's. New Year's is not our big night. The night before Thanksgiving is actually the night with the most DUI arrests, which means that Friday has never been able to be a day off for us because we're usually scrambling, answering, phone calls. I'm hoping, last year it wasn't like that. I'm hoping this year we get some more phone calls. Our intakes are starting to normalize again after a couple of rough months. But the holidays bring a lot of things into the office. And one of the things that it brings up is stress. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. We had an incident this week that I texted you off the show about where we had a great team member, someone who has been with us for a number of years, and her interactions with her colleagues became short. They became very aggressive. And I was struggling with how to deal with it because it's not the type of environment that we want to have. So we took a step back. Her husband's been deployed for almost a year. She's essentially a single mom, and holidays are approaching, and I think there may be some outside stresses on her life. And it's one of the things that as an employer, you have to sort of take the big picture. Yes, she's reacting poorly here in the office. We've had some conversations about that. We're identifying things that we can do to sort of relieve some of that stress. But in your history, I'm not saying necessarily this year, but it seems that this time of year gets stressful for certain employees, and those employees may change. How do you guys handle it in the office?
It's funny because I almost look at like child rearing. I can't remember 1, 2, and 3 years old because if you did, you'd never go back and have another kid in life. Not that I'm planning on having more. So what I can tell you is, while holidays are always stressful in different ways, right? I have both sets of grandparents under the same roof right now, 5, 7 feet from where I am. But
No wonder you wanted to do a show today.
exactly, that got showing.
Right.
But the thing that I would say is the unprecedented stress of COVID in general has seen cracks. People working from home that didn't before, uncertainty, all sorts of pieces. Both, we saw a huge hit, with the Black Lives Matter movement and how that affected a lot of our staff members. Stuff that I couldn't always relate to, but was definitely palpable and real. And I think the combination of all of that with holidays, with COVID, there is a recipe for the next 5 weeks to be pretty exciting.
So, yeah, and it's definitely something that people have to be cognizant of when you're dealing with your staff, that they might have outside stressors that they're able to handle pretty normally during the regular work year, but the holidays sort of amp it up. But this brings another question, something that's been up in the forums, and actually Craig Goldenfarb had a really good response to it, but I want to get your opinion before I talk about Craig's response. And it dealt with holiday bonuses. Do you give a bonus? Do you give extra time off? How do you, and for the most part, it seems like a lot of the staff are like, well, give me the bonus. I don't need the extra time off. I barely take the time off that I have now. And then I have another question about that when dealing with overseas staff. So how does Price Benowitz do you do
It's
bonuses? I'll tell you my way.
Yeah, no, it's like a complicated and multi-tiered answer, given we have different practice areas, et cetera. The time off thing I've thought a lot about, right? As I said, we always do Friday, but we don't do some of the more nominal national holidays where, we phase some of those out, but then we've added some back in. MLK and June 19th, we've added a number of holidays back in. One of the things I've always aspired to do, which we haven't always fully done, is trying to give us as many paid holiday days between Christmas and New Year's. There are times when I try to make the full week work. There are times when we sort of do a handful of days around Christmas and around New Year's. And I don't have a magic answer. Part of it's what type of year you're doing. Part of it is how is the workflow. It's easy if you are on the marketing side, it may be slightly easier because the work is consistent versus, if you're telling me that your busy time of year is post Thanksgiving and into the holidays when people look, I know for myself, you go to a party, you're not used to drinking at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, it changes. So in your world, it's a tough time to give additional time off. Bonus wise has always been a very tricky matter. And whenever you get advice, like Golden Farms in Florida, where historically cost of labor has been significantly less than what we have in the Northeast, I'm always torn between maximizing pay, and we've talked about this on prior shows. We now have people right out of college commanding 50, 55 and more. Do you sort of put it all out on the table? Do you how do you do it? Because it's money at the end of the day. Meaning if it's a structured, 1 week's pay, then it's just part of the bonus package. It's just part of your employment package, so to speak. There are people that would be huge for in my world, and there are people that would spit in my face if we did that. And the question is, what is right? And to have one size fits all sounds great. But when you have a top performer who's like, I'm not the same as everybody else, I've killed myself. And so I've always said both on both the pay side as well as the bonus side, that the plaintiff's world is different than everything else, at least from my point of view. I've been able to create a formula for my firm that's worked rather well for lawyers specifically, forget about staff, but for lawyers where we've been able to keep and incentivize people for a decade or more. That said, the personal injury side gets very complicated because yes, it's production, but it's partially case selection that goes to people, et cetera. So, we have some amazing talent on the injury side, and we'll have to, figure that out. But I definitely am not either smart or brave enough to be able to do a one size fits all for the entire firm.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Actually, we've gone ahead and actually put into our offer letter to attorneys the incentive bonus structure and indicate in that offer letter right up front that traditionally we do not do holiday bonuses for attorney class members. Because I want people coming in knowing that, okay, I'm not going to get things. Now, on the staff side, what we have normally done is we've given them an extra week's pay. So if they're a frontline employee or if they're an administrator, they're actually getting a double week's pay in their paycheck that last week of the year.
Just light bulb went off that I got to figure out, because we are, for the first time in the history of the firm, finally moving, God willing, we've talked about it pre-COVID, from every 2 weeks, 26 pay periods a year to 24. Same pay, but for budgeting, having 2 months with 3 pay periods in it is brutal. And we're fine. So maybe I'm going to time some of that holiday bonus to be able to smooth out and make sure that people aren't without, there are a number of people, and I think less and less, that are actually like, okay, I get my pay on this day, everything is spent, next pay. And so when you tweak with that, it could be, and we've held off for the longest time, about to do it pre-COVID, COVID came, we held off, but it would be such a big deal business-wise for our firm to be able to put that in place. But maybe those two things can go hand in hand this year.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We actually do something different. We pay weekly. We do 52 pay periods a year, and we pay 1 week in arrears. And that has just worked for me for cash flow because I'm not taking a huge hit, twice a month. And it seems more manageable to me. If I could pay people daily, I would do that. I like the
Well,
casino
no, no,
style
no,
of you pay everything every 24 hours, and that way you're always in the black. That's just how I've operated. Now it may be time for me to reconsider that, given the size of our operation and where we're going with it. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is staffing. We talked about giving them extra time off. So you have a lot of overseas staff. I have some overseas staff, and the question came up: are any of the overseas staff working on Thursday? Now in
I
Colombia,
would think that,
Thursday's a regular day for them.
exactly. So that you get the benefit, but the flip side is,
They,
I have some people that do tasks for us out of India, not intake or anything like that. And there are periods where when Diwali comes, we're toast for a while. And we started to learn on certain holidays, using India as the example, it's not just the holiday. This reminds me of my days working when I did some flips of apartment buildings. It's not just the holidays, it's the recovery day afterward or two. And so
yeah,
we look over the years have figured those out. I remember when I had real estate ventures, we knew that like big football game next day, we're not going to have people at work. It was just
yeah.
part of the game. And I feel like, these are the things we're feeling our way through, with our Latin American team, which has been really influential in building our intake. Yes, Thursday is not an issue. I'm sure other days will be that I'll be smacked in the face with as we build out and develop this. We've been really very successful with it. But one of the things that I'm excited about is working. It was a brainstorm. I got to give Michael McCready credit for, I believe, as the original person to say, hey, try a comedian online. We loved it, had a great time last year. Talked to you, and you had some ideas about entertainment, because while we're finally putting an infirm holiday party back, which is going to be awesome and I think great energy, and hopefully doesn't become a super spreader event, given that 98% of the people are triple vaxxed. But the idea of what do you do for the people that are not close? We're actually flying in, both Price Benoits and Blue Shark. Anybody domestic is flying in or driving in for the holiday party. But the flip side of that is, how do you keep the international team motivated? And
Right.
I think it's things, ignore Chaparral. We have them on 15.5. We're doing our best to every touch point we can use, but I think that this is all a learning is learning for everybody, as far as how do you keep the remote workforce motivated when you can't be there and do a holiday party. We do heavy raffles. We do huge gift cards and different electronics and giveaways. That has been sort of has gone over extremely well. I feel like that's better than a nominal bonus in certain respects. That is that not that there are bonuses paid, but that's been a huge win. But complicated in feeling our way through.
Yeah, and I'm encouraged anybody who's listening to the program, if you have been, because the overseas talent is sort of a new experience for Seth and I. I mean, granted, I've had people now for over a year, but we're first really starting to navigate this whole holiday thing with them. One of the things that one of the lawyers in my office, my new legal operations head, said is, why don't we sit down with a calendar and say you get 11 paid holidays a year. Which ones do you want? And go through with each person and say, okay, because we have staff that might say, I don't care about July 4th, because I live in Honduras.
No, I
So,
think that's a given. I think the first question is, what is yes, not what's important to you, but what are the holidays?
right.
Right? Because even if it's not important, you don't want that person, that should be the beauty of this, right? If we do this right, I'm tickled to the fact that as inflation has hit and as the employment process in the U.S. has gotten that much harder, to have a full team of overseas people doing intake has been an incredible experience. But it's what the last thing I want to do, and we haven't lost really a single Latin American based person that was not like a US transplant. But I want to make sure that we not just are asking them, but like figuring that out. Because if you can come to them and say, yeah, we know this is what's important to you, what else is? I
Yeah.
feel like that would go a long way as well.
I got something for you, and it's something that needs to be on your radar now, to be prepared for it. The World Cup is next year. And if you have people in that are overseas where soccer is life, you're going to have people who are going to maybe need, a day and maybe a recovery day, depending on, what country they're in. And that's something that you need to think about now.
That's why
So
we only hire from countries that have poor soccer teams.
Well, there you go. Okay, folks, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have more stuff to talk about with you on this pre-holiday edition of Maximum Growth Live. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jay from FirmFlex, and I want to let you in on a foolproof way to drive viable clients to your door via social media, using a social funnel. You see, social media is a different type of marketing, and using the wrong methods won't land you clients. It will turn people off to your brand. But there's a way to get those clients to opt in, learn more about you, learn why you are great, and then want to contact you, whether you handle trust and estates, or family law, or personal injury, or any other type of law. And that's using a multiple-stepped funnel that delivers the right message at the right time. You can get that message with a FirmFlex social funnel. A FirmFlex social funnel is the way to drive qualified leads into your client base. Our funnel program gives you the ultimate control over your new client funnel. We design, implement, and set up all the triggers for a multi-step funnel, bringing attention to your brand and slowly warming potential clients from cold to red hot and ready to engage. And the best part is, you can start the whole process right online. Visit getfirmflex.com today.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
And we're back with Maximum Growth Live. Seth, I want to tell you a little bit about something that's happened to me in the last week, get your input on it. So as you know, I made a pledge here on the show that by July 23rd of next year, I was going to be out of the operations of my firm, and I am marching head first into that. And one of the things that I did this week was have what I called a State of the Union presentation. It took me about an hour. I walked through a number of things that where we were at the beginning of the year, where we are now, things that we're doing. Talked a little bit about Blue Shark as one of our partners now in helping us with our SEO. But giving this presentation to the 30-odd people in my operation was really interesting. We announced some educational initiatives that are available not only to people stateside, but also overseas. We announced a new mental health benefit that we are extending not only to our stateside people that are covered by insurance, but even our people who are overseas or not covered by our insurance plans. So, we really put a lot out there, but one of the challenges I have is we have a new legal operations person who is a partner here at the firm. And everyone's supposed to go to him. And at 3:30 yesterday, after I gave him my presentation, he was working remotely. One of the attorneys came into my office and said, I have a problem with my computer. And I was the only person left in the office, so I had to dive in and dig in. And so when
Well,
I alerted him to that, he goes, "Why didn't you tell them to call me?" And I would have told them what the issue, who to go to. And I just said, "Well, I was here." So as a person,
well,
I need
Jay,
some advice
I
from
know.
you to get out of the way, I
Well,
guess.
we've been friends for a long time, and I've, as you know, way ahead of the curve on this. 10 years ago, probably, like, why are you schlepping to court on a daily basis for a DUI case? And I get if it's a celebrity DUI case, great, but you were building something that was really special, and it's not to put down going to court, but your answer to me historically was always, hey, I want to be there, be visible. I get referrals from it, and I bought into that. I was like, okay, it's you, and you enjoyed it, so it was
Yeah.
part of that ecosystem. I think the issue, the challenge I'm guessing that you're going to be facing is, it's one thing to say it, actions speak louder than words. And so if you're there, like, and the other guy is not, and that's part of my issue as well. Like, I have an IT guy who's amazing, but he works from home several days a week. You know, as we navigate the in-house versus out of house, and we're still sort of older school, you're there and you can't help yourself, as you shouldn't. And it's not like you want to be mean. You'd be like, hey, yes, I can fix this. So I think that it's when your wish and desire and proclamation from the State of the Union becomes reality, and that people see it, that it works, then people buy it. I'll give you an analogy. I don't know if there was a town in Massachusetts that not banned, but got together and said collectively, no birthday party gifts, no gifts for birthday parties. We're going to have everybody donate $20 per person per party, put it in a pool, and then buy an ambulance for the town at the end of the year. And people would show up to birthday parties with a gift wrapped just in case, because they couldn't believe they were going to show up to a kid birthday party without a toy. Now, you with 4 kids and 3 kids, like you need I had to buy a larger house to put all the crap. So to me, I think this is the greatest thing ever, especially when you go, these things go around. But it's when people believe that they really can go somewhere and that it will get done, that then all of a sudden will happen. If you get over that hump, otherwise they're sitting there with the gift wrapped in the car just in case, because they're looking at you and like, Jay will solve that problem. But
Right.
look, it's day 0.1. If you really extract yourself and you allow that team to do its job, you'll see what happens. I have no doubt that it will happen. You're a big fan of the proclamation and it will happen. To me, it'll be steps to get there. The court is a bigger deal to me than the administrative. The administrative, not easier or harder, when there's somebody they like, know, and trust well enough to say, yes, I don't need Jay to fix it, but this person can do it. And I'm personally going through this. We finally got a firm administrator in place who has the chops, and we're sort of feeling each other out. Great news so far. Sensibility is on point, but you're sort of figuring out that you're going to find stuff. And this is what I'm finding. And it's not the firm administrator, of a person who books travel at $6 an hour. They're doing stuff that isn't always as cheap as it could be or as perfect. It's getting better, but if you're not willing to allow the 80-20 rule to hold place, it'll never happen, because it's not going to be Jay. Some things will be better than if you were there, but if you're really willing to allow a certain degree of inefficiency to take place, then it'll actually take hold.
Yeah, that's been a challenge for me, through the years, is that I would do it a specific way. And it's sort of the argument you get into your wife when you're driving to a location, and she says, "Well, why are you going this way? I would go this way." And I say, "No, but I go this way." And so you're thinking to yourself, they're going the wrong way, even though you're both going to the same place. You just take two different ways of getting there. Neither is right, neither is wrong.
Are you actually inside our car watching us? Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's going to be interesting. Come Monday, we have a new attorney starting in the office, and I'm not involved in that process at all. I wasn't involved in the interviewing. I wasn't involved in the hiring decision. I'm not involved in the onboarding. I'm going to go in and get to spend a half hour with him on Monday and just sort of introduce myself and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm the guy who signs the front of the paychecks."
That's an extreme piece. I have a buddy who runs a venture-backed group, Smartling, really cool translation company, Jack Weldy, and he has 250 plus employees. He interviews every new employee. So the question is, what are you giving up and what aren't you? I mean,
Right.
we just had a meltdown with an attorney in South Carolina who went off the rails in a bunch of different ways. And thankfully, a new hire is in the works, but it was pretty bad. And if I had not, like, it happened despite my interviewing him. Had I not interviewed this person, I think it would have been rougher. And that there are certain things you want to give up, but like, be careful about, you still want it to be your thumbprint. Yes, you don't want to do the labor. You want to be detached, but assuming you're not, Zoom is a pretty easy thing. The idea that you're not talking to new people coming on board, maybe not getting you what you want. What you want to be is out of the weeds, but if you don't have your top line talent buying into the greatness of Jay Ruane, I think you're giving something up. Now, if there's a strategic reason, like I'm going on a 4-month sabbatical and nobody talks to me, fine, okay. But that's not the case here. You are available, you are accessible, and that, yes, you don't want to be doing the IT work at the firm, but I think that having your mark both in a selection process as well as a leadership process, I don't love the idea of you being invisible.
Well, I don't think I was invisible. I mean, recall what we do is we do that video interview thing. So I got to see him, and I was in the interview Zoom, but I was not. My camera was not on, and I didn't ask any questions. So I got to see how he interacted with people. So I know he's not, he's not a Frankenstein's monster type of guy.
But this is not, again, I know this going out to the world, but this is not an intake person. This is legal talent that your name, Ruane, is under. To me, that's if you're going to cut of all the places, like having some, and also from a motivation point of view, I'll give you easier advice to give than to take. My intake team doesn't really know me, which is amazing, because when it was in the office domestically, these are people I took off for coffee on a regular basis. I would do everything I could, good and bad, to keep them sort of like, hey, this is a law firm. You're going to law school. We want you to be proud of where you work and motivated and get to know each of the attorneys that you are upselling and providing information for. We now have people reading off a Salesforce list of what somebody's accolades are. But to me, if you have that ability of all the places to cut, I know symbolically you're trying to make cuts,
right?
But that is like the last of it. Like, that's where you still are valuable, is that leadership. You mentioned Craig Goldenfarb. You are the chief cheerleader. It's not like, oh, there's this guy Jay. It's like, no, this is Jay's shop.
Yeah. Oh, that brings me back to the point that I wanted to make. We talked about bonuses and that type of thing. And one of the things that came up in the forums was somebody said, I wanted to be generous. I give my people 10% bonuses, 10% raises every year. And Craig quickly piped in and said, 10% is going to be untenable as you grow. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of people that are in our audience are like, hey, I'm starting to make money and I lived off of a lot less money in the past, so I can spread the wealth around. But what you have to do is be true to your business, I think, and maybe keep some of that in reserve.
Hold up. The problem with advice is it's being given from different people's perspectives. I have 40 lawyers. Craig has, 15, I don't know. So the perspective of what's being given, and, I'm playing and staffing a firm where I'm not leaving a ton on the table. That said, the advice you're giving to some guy who brought somebody in for 40,000, it may be the 10's too low. It may be, okay, look, I saw this first generation. Can you remember back when you started? We got people in. You can get a person in for below market money, and it lasts for a while. The question is, if you want it to be sustainable, at some point it won't. And so to me, the fact he's giving 10% raises, well, yeah, if you were at market and you're giving 10% raises, your margins may disappear. But if the truth is you're a startup and you got some kid in the door for $35,000 and you're raising him to 40, which is more than 10%, that's not so crazy. Right. And so to me, again, I don't love this stuff, but we do a lot of sort of 90-day reviews, a whole topic for another day where there's a bump that comes immediately. And I have an employee that was pretty mediocre for 90 days, but the expectation was there's more money. And now I'm like, if I don't give her $2,000 more now in the annual salary, then I'm going to lose her because I've created a negative dynamic. Whereas she was really mediocre for that time, and I want more and I'd pay more, but I wasn't getting it. So I think the advice as to what 10% is, is meaningless unless you know where. So again, the thing we talk about a lot, which is you start with low dollar talent, whether it be a law clerk at $20 an hour, a junior attorney at 50 a year, 25 an hour, and that a year later, that person isn't worth 50, they're worth 80,
Right.
And
And
so
we talked about this with some of my hiring issues with hiring first year lawyers. It's
exactly.
interesting that we're having this conversation, and when we get off the phone and talking to my legal operations guy, we're about to give one of our lawyers like a 19% raise because she has earned it, and she came in, probably at low market, not necessarily under market, but has stepped up and distinguished herself. And so now's the time. We're not even. She's only been with us for 8 months, but it's time. She's
No,
earned
look,
this.
I see this on a micro level. I'm seeing with our overseas employees, where like you're not going to retain people at $5 an hour. Like if you
Right.
want talent, it's got to go up. And look, I'll give you the flip side. There was a woman at Blue Shark who was solidly mediocre, walked in and asked for like 130% raise. And we're like, no, like that's not. I mean,
I credit her for having the cojones to do that.
But it
Yeah.
was something. Not surprisingly, it wasn't a person you wanted longer term.
Right.
So, but that's why I was like, hey, percentage. When you're when I say a micro player, if you're a startup law firm, it's one guy and a person, and you have a woman, let's say an assistant that you have at 40, and you're like, man, my firm is making money now. And I can't lose this person. Objectively, this is my person. And if I can keep this person, we had this woman who stayed with us for 2 years when we started. She's now married to one of our partners, and she was amazing. She went to law school. I couldn't keep her, and we kept her for below market numbers. Had we known if she was not going to law school, and I could have kept her for 60 when she was making 40, right? What is that? That's a 50% increase, but that would have been smart money. There are times when you're paying below market and that you can either lose that person and then realize, wow, that person was worth $60,000, $70,000 as essentially a junior firm administrator, but to sort of get on somebody over 10% like that, unless you know the context, I think it's very hard to give meaningful advice because 10% off of $35,000 a year is really very different than 10% off your $120,000 a year person.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, that's a lot of good content that we got there. There's so many things when you're growing your firm. We want to talk through our problems and the challenges that we face because a lot of these things replicate themselves across firms and across time. And so, with Seth, with his operation, with my operation, if we are in a situation where we can just vent about our issues to each other, it may, cause something to be brought up in your mind years from now when you're going through a similar problem, or maybe you're experiencing it now live as we speak, and we want to be able to help you sort of talk through it. So that's really the whole purpose behind Maximum Growth Live. What we're going to do is sign off now. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season. We will be back next week, 3 p.m. Eastern, for our live show. If you want to catch up with Seth over there, be sure to tune into his SEO Insider. If you've got nothing going on this weekend and are interested in systems, please join my Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth Facebook group, where I'll put out some stuff probably over this weekend. I'm going to spend some time in the office on Friday and Saturday, as it is a busy time for us. And then next week, and I'm doing that because my intake lawyer is going to be out of town with her family, so I'm going to step in and help out in intakes as necessary. But I've signed myself out of Slack for next week. I'm not going to show up in the office at all, Seth. We'll do the show from an undisclosed location, and we'll see how it goes stepping out of this firm. But I want to wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. Any final words?
No, I'm looking forward to this final month. I feel like if we can wrap this year up well, given all the ups and downs, and that look at 2022 as the year to I still feel that feeling of March of 2020 when we were like things were jamming so well.
Yeah, they really were.
I just hope that we can get ourselves back. I know we're going to have hurdles. Inflation is coming, and that's scary stuff. But looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here at Maximum Growth Live. I'd say happy Thanksgiving. I want you all to have a wonderful day. Bye for now.